Trying to stay connected to Seattle but always tight on time? KUOW's Seattle Now podcast has got you covered. With 2 daily episodes that catch you up in less than 15 minutes, every morning we go deep on a single story that you need to know about. And every afternoon, we round up the biggest headlines of the day, featuring reports from our team of award-winning journalists. So check out Seattle Now on the KUOW app or wherever you get your podcasts, and let's get caught up together.
Hearing static when you enter a tunnel in the middle of a fascinating story? Hanging out in your driveway to catch the end of a report? We've been there. With the KUOW app, you can listen to your favorite programs anytime and anywhere. No driveways required. Let's get going. Download the KUOW app now, available for iOS and Android.
REI is a Seattle staple. It's as central to this region's DNA as rain or the Space Needle.
And it's not just the backpacks and hiking socks that Seattleites love. REI is a member-owned co-op, and that speaks to the liberal worldview of many of its dedicated customers.
Bottom line, a co-op is a business that puts purpose before profits.
But when it comes to making money, REI may have gotten out a little too far over its skis.
REI has been losing money for years, and that's put it at odds with its employees, who want better wages and benefits.
I'm Joshua McNichols.
I'm Monica Nicholsberg.
And this is Booming, a podcast about the economic forces shaping our lives here in the Pacific Northwest.
Today, workers in the service industry are organizing at companies that used to seem immune from unionization. They want shift work to come with as much respect as any other job.
Ever since I got elected, Republicans have attacked me by saying that I should go back to bartending. But let me tell you, I'm happy to any day of the week because there is nothing wrong with working for a living.
So, could the next generation of workers revolutionize retail? That's coming up.
Well, what am I supposed to do? I don't have any money to buy new boots.
Did you get them at REI?
Yeah.
Well, you call them, you tell them, and they'll have new boots sent to your next stop.
Seriously?
REI is such an iconic Seattle company. We're outdoorsy here. People move to this area for the outdoors. I bought my membership card in the early 90s at the original store on Capitol Hill. So it can be kind of hard to imagine REI struggling in this town. But maybe I'm just in a Seattle bubble. So, Monica, set the stage for us. What's happening with REI?
Yeah, believe it or not, REI is really struggling. They've been in the news lately because they closed down experiences.
REI is cutting hundreds of jobs as the Issaquah-based co-op eliminates its experiences division.
That's the tours and classes that they offer. I know I did one years ago at their flagship store. They have a big climbing wall inside, and my husband and I took a top rope class there. You can't do that anymore. Oh. And they cut 400 jobs associated with experiences.
The experiences division has been around for over 40 years, but REI says it's cost a lot more to run than it brings in.
Sadly, just the latest in a series of layoffs at REI. They've also posted financial losses every year since 2021. There are a couple things happening behind the scenes here. One is, like a lot of companies, REI saw big demand during the pandemic. People couldn't take flights for their usual vacations, so they were camping more, they needed gear, and the company stocked up its inventory in response to that demand. A few years later, some of that demand has cooled off. I think there are probably more than a handful of people who realize they don't quite love the outdoors as much as they thought in the height of 2021.
Yeah, I bought a bicycle for my son during that big outdoorsy boom, and he never rode it.
It was a different time. The other thing that's happening here is just that retail is struggling. It's a really tough time to be a retailer, especially offering some of the more premium products that REI does when you can get a lot of gear on Amazon, Walmart, other places like that. And all of that financial pressure is the backdrop for the union issues that REI is facing right now.
Okay, so what's happening with REI's union drive?
Well, about a dozen of REI's roughly 180 stores have unionized since 2022, but none of them has managed to get a contract in that time. The employees say that they want better pay, benefits, and more control over their schedules, which is a really common complaint that we hear among shift workers. REI says it already offers industry-leading wages and benefits, and a union just isn't the best way to address those employee concerns.
That sounds familiar. I've heard that from other companies.
Yeah, that is a common refrain from companies that are resisting unionization. But despite that resistance from the company, some stores have managed to unionize, and I went up to one of them in Bellingham. The employees there told a different story than the company line. I talked to one employee there, Teeny Alexander. She works in the gear department.
I think that the union was very much necessary for our store because we were going through so many different fluctuations, whether it was for staffing, the hours that people were getting. People honestly were running into each other at the food bank, and people were having a hard time paying for rent.
Teeny accuses REI of playing hardball. They've been negotiating for more than a year to get a contract, and REI has hired this law firm that's kind of infamous for union busting, Morgan Lewis. That came up a lot in my conversations with employees.
It's so surprising that this is happening at REI because it's a member-owned co-op. It's known for its respect for the environment and choosing products that follow ethical labor practices, right? So how do you square this approach to unions with that?
Yeah, that's how a lot of employees and REI members that I talked to feel. And it's true that REI has this big philanthropy arm that does a lot of conservation, DEI work, lobbying for sustainability. And increasingly, that kind of environmental stewardship is being aligned with labor issues. We see that with the Green New Deal. There's this sense that environmentalism and workers' rights are not separate things, but part of the same sort of collective ideology. REI also has this fair labor program, which requires the suppliers that it stocks to meet international labor standards that include the right to unionize. So lots of people have raised this seeming dissonance between sort of the company's projected image and the way that it's responding to the union. But I talked to an expert who said that having that kind of reputation doesn't necessarily keep a company from resisting unionization. His name is John Logan, and he's the director of labor studies at San Francisco State University.
In terms of how the company has behaved, it really doesn't seem to have made that much of a difference. And in fact, in some ways, it seems to have made the company even more resistant to unionization because it sort of says that, well, we're a special kind of company, and its messaging, in the non-union stores where workers have been trying to organize is that unions will threaten the unique culture, the cooperative culture that we have at REI.
He says ultimately, REI is a company that's trying to stay afloat in a really difficult industry. It's not making money, and it's worried about the increased costs that could be associated with the labor movement.
That reminds me of what's happening at Starbucks and at some other retail stores. So help me understand the bigger context here.
You're right. So John Logan says that the retail sector, stores like REI and Starbucks, have resisted unionization for a long time. But that seems to be changing thanks to this new generation of organizers.
If you had told me 5 or 10 years ago that we would see successful union campaigns at Starbucks, Amazon, Trader Joe's, REI, I would say, you're crazy. That's never going to happen.
We're seeing this shift because of the type of worker that stores like REI and Starbucks tend to attract. Young, left-leaning, social media savvy. And their organizing victories are inspiring more stores around the country to follow suit.
When you look at where the energy and the enthusiasm and the optimism in the labor movement is, it's unquestionably amongst young people, and they needed examples of successful campaigns. Starbucks was absolutely essential to sort of breathing new life into that young activist part of the labor movement.
Historically, the big establishment unions have seen organizing retail stores as kind of pointless. There's so much turnover in these stores, and you have to go to each individual location and unionize it at a corporation that could have hundreds or thousands of stores. But this new generation is excited about those challenges.
So what has changed fundamentally for this new generation then to make that more possible?
They have a very different relationship to work. And a big part of that, I think, is growing up in a lifetime of economic insecurity. They won't necessarily have access to the same sort of traditional corporate career ladder that leads to better jobs. They may be in retail jobs for the long haul or in and out of the sector. And there's this sense that there is no such thing as unskilled labor, that these types of jobs aren't just for a quick paycheck or a summer role, that they are worthy of the same respect that office jobs have, that all work is dignified.
All right, Monica, thanks for telling me about REI and what's going on there. Coming up next, the end game. Okay, we're back for the end game with our producer, our beloved producer, Lucy Suchek.
Very beloved.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Lucy, what have you brought us?
I have brought you things you didn't know about REI.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, I visit REI probably 2 to 3 times a month. Sometimes I just go to browse around because it makes me feel like I belong here. So, people who live in Seattle know a ton about REI. I bet you two know a lot too. So I scoured the internet for things you may not know about the company, and I hope that there are questions that you don't know in here. Number 1, the first place REI goods were sold was actually not at a brick and mortar store. Where were they sold?
Oh. Do you know this, Monica?
I don't know the answer. I'm picturing like a pop-up at a trailhead.
Oh,
no, that's incorrect.
Okay, well.
But it is kind of a pop-up.
I have no idea, so I'm just going to say a trailer. I don't know. At the back of a truck.
They were sold at a Richfield gas station in downtown Seattle. They had a little shelf with some equipment.
Oh.
And then the first store opened in 1944. So this was for a few years. They were at a little gas station.
Oh, interesting. 1944. So you always wonder if there's like a World War II connection to something like this. Like,
yeah.
Do people get back from the war and be like, I just need to go outside?
I need to heal in nature. That feels true.
Yeah, that feels true. Okay, number 2. How much was an original REI co-op membership? And this is going to be the price of like the late 1930s.
Okay, so in 1930s dollars?
Yeah, in 1938.
I'll say $1.
Okay.
I'll say 75 cents.
$1 is correct. Yeah. $1. So that would be just over $22 now with inflation. And the current membership is $30. So it's like not that far off, honestly.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Okay, number 3. In the late 1960s, because Joshua actually found me a catalog from the late 1960s, how much did it cost to buy a backpacking backpack? And I'll give you a size hint. So they didn't have like liter size like we do now, but it's kind of a smaller backpacking bag. So I'd say it's similar to like a 40, 50 liter size bag.
So late 60s prices?
Mm-hmm. 1967.
Okay, and even though I sent you this catalog, I did not look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No cheating.
Monica, do you want to guess first?
I want to say maybe $20.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to say if membership was $1 in 1938 and it's $30 today, and it would probably be about 30 times the cost of a membership. No, maybe 10 times the cost of a membership. So 10.
Joshua is way more methodical here.
That doesn't work. The math doesn't work. I'm just going to say $30.
$9.95.
Wow.
$10.
Heart math did not get us there.
Yeah. So that would be like about $94 now. And for reference, a pack like that would range from $150 to $200 at REI. So
okay, so there's gear inflation happening.
Gear inflation. Yeah. Okay, this is a really quick bonus question because I thought it was just really funny in the catalog. How many hat ornaments were listed in the 1967 REI catalog?
What is a hat ornament?
It's like one of those little fedora hats, and then you can put a little feather pin in it. It's a hat ornament, and there were quite a few listed. So how many do you think?
50?
Okay.
I didn't even know this was a thing ever.
I didn't either.
I see people with feathers in their caps, but I didn't realize that you could have sold those.
Yeah, REI was a supplier.
Wow. Okay, I have no idea. I'll say 10.
19.
Wow.
There are 19 little pin ornaments with tons of different feathers listed in the catalog.
I would love to get my hands on one of those.
I think that would be a fun trend to bring back.
That would be a fun trend. Yeah, except people don't really wear fedoras hiking anymore.
Yeah.
Well, this conversation has put a feather in my cap. That's it for Booming. Thank you so much for listening.
And we noticed we've got some new listeners. So welcome if you're just joining us. If you have a question that you want us to answer or, something you think would make a good episode, then please reach out.
We would love to hear from you. Our email is booming@kuow.org. Also, special thanks to those of you who are donating to the show. We seriously couldn't do it without you. If you want to donate, go to kuow.org/booming. And thanks.
Our producer is Lucy Suchek. Our editor is Carol Smith. I'm Joshua McNichols.
I'm Monica Nicholsberg.
And we'll see you next time.
Come spring, above our heads, millions of spiders will be floating in the sky.
Millions? Why are they doing that?
We'll find out on the latest episode of Spectacular Specimens,
KUOW's podcast for curious kids and adults.
Listen to Spectacular Specimens on the KUOW app
or wherever you get your podcasts.